Okay, you want to do the minutes?
I'm sitting here trying to figure out why we have September 17th and September 18th.
You know
All of a sudden the
why?
light goes on, yeah. Yeah, one is at 3 o'clock and one is, one we didn't post.
Right. So let's look at September 18th.
We don't do, excuse me, it's just a technicality. We don't have to approve the 17th because it was a non-meeting.
But, no, but we're adding it to, we'll add it to the minutes. Or, yeah,
Just to have it as a record.
just have it as a record.
Okay. I've already looked over the 18th, and
I have to.
Melissa does a really nice job. I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of September 18th.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye. Aye. Then so voted.
Where are the two missing members of the group today?
That's what I would like to know.
I haven't heard from, we did hear from Melissa that she would be late. Have not heard from Commissioner Kenney.
So I'm missing them both already.
Okay,
Okay?
yep.
So we'll attach that to that. All right, what about conducting a personal hearing on September 18th?
Oh, the minutes?
The minutes. We have two. We have a
I just had that.
cover sheet, and we also have a the personal hearing minutes. I've read through them. They come on the computer, and I did look at them last night. I don't see anything wrong with them. I'm surprised that so much was covered and everything was in these minutes, which is what they're supposed to be. So there's 24 pages.
And it's a transcript.
It's a grant transcript, correct?
I'll make a motion that we accept the transcribed minutes of the September 18th personnel hearing.
I'll second it.
Gainer.
I'll second it. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Then so voted. Okay, we have another one here, and I'm not... The Carroll County Commissioners convened at 9:15 a.m. on this date for the purpose of conducting a personal hearing regarding the matter of termination of Mountain View Community Employee Diane Gaynor. The hearing adjourned at 10:58. A full 24-page transcript of the hearing has been prepared separately as an addendum to these minutes and is available for public inspection. Minutes approved by a majority vote on. I make a motion that we accept the minutes of September 18th.
Well, we just did.
No, we accepted the transcript. These are the minutes.
Oh, okay. I'll second it.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
All right.
All those, aye. And so voted. Do we have any other minutes? Not that I know of.
No.
Okay. Okay. Will, since you're here, we will,
Good morning, Will.
good morning.
Morning. Just got a couple of quick things to talk. Some extra
Well, David, before we start, maybe we ought to make some kind of a statement that we will allow Melissa to use the videotape as the first part of the meeting.
Okay.
And just let you know, Asha called and she's gonna be late today.
Asha's called
Yeah, she has called, and these are just.
and
for-
said she'd be late.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those will be for later. Later. Hey, Lynn, how are you?
Morning, good. How about you?
How much later? And this is ridiculous.
Did she say when she'd be here?
No.
No, doesn't matter. Okay.
This is ridiculous, you know, she missed, she didn't come to the last 2 out of 3 meetings.
Okay. Will, go ahead.
Start with the gardens all done for the season. All we have left down there now is to pick up the plastic before snowfall comes. We're hopefully finishing up the hay today for the season. I was doing probably a week and a half ago baling, and the PTO shaft broke off the baler and went flying across the field, of course, and which was a real shame because we were into some really nice second crop hay. Of course, now it's mulch hay because we've gotten rained on since then. Luckily, we got probably more than 3/4 of it done out of that field, so we did get a lot of nice hay out of it.
Did just the universal go on it?
Yeah, basically, you hook your PTO shaft up to your tractor.
Yeah.
If you follow that back, it goes into the baler.
Yeah.
Then it has a joint there, and then it goes into the flywheel. Well, at that joint, it has a bearing there, and
Yeah.
the bearing let go. When the bearing let go, there's a yoke that the bearing sits in, and it, of course, broke the yoke, and that's why it went flying out. And I had to wait. I could have gotten parts the next day, but we would have had to have assembled the whole thing, and it would have cost us $800 to $900 to get the parts. Or I could have waited 3 or 4 days and got a whole new shaft that's all put together for like $500. So it was cheaper to wait the extra time. And we were going to get rain that night, so the hay was going to be ruined anyways.
Yeah.
So there was no sense in spending extra money to just get hay that was going to be ruined anyways. So we took, the time and.
Well, Willie, the next time it happens, come up the house and get my baler.
Okay.
It's a shame to lose that money.
All right.
Okay.
So hopefully.
Do you have any idea how many bales you've put in yet? Put in so far?
I have it all written down. I just haven't reviewed it, added it all up. To get you, I was hoping to come back as we get down on the list. I'll tell you why, but I'm hoping to come back next week. So I'll make a note to give you a summary on that next week if you'd like, Commissioner.
Okay.
Okay.
We don't have too much. We got a little bit left in the barn. Some of that's sold and it just hasn't been delivered yet because we're trying to get trucks going every day for cordwood deliveries and everything also. But when it's all said and done, after what's ordered, there's not going to be a lot left in the barn. So I foresee it probably going out pretty quick in the next month and a half that will be empty.
Are you talking about wood or hay?
Hay, yeah. There's not a lot left out there. There's some, but not a lot. The hoop house. The hoop house is being worked on every day. They finished one of the end walls yesterday. They're starting the other end wall today. Then we got to build the doors on it. As they're building the end walls, they installed the louver on that end. This end is going to have a big blower that's being installed. And then once the doors are done, then we can put the plastic on. That's kind of the last step for that. So that's coming along.
Are the doors big enough to get a tractor in, or is it strictly for rototiller?
No, I made it wide enough for a tractor,
Yeah.
and the one end that we're getting ready to build, I think might be tall enough for a short tractor, not ours, because ours have the things on top. But
Yeah.
if we needed to borrow one or whatever, it's a possibility. We tried to do that with the end one, but the louver out there is 5x5, and it hung down
And it goes
so
right up on the top.
yeah, as high as we could get it, but it still hangs down 5 feet, and those things are only 12 feet tall at the very peak, and so when you come out 5 feet,
Yeah.
our door over there is barely 6 feet tall, so I don't really think you're going to
But
get
you
much.
could drive a pickup in there?
That end's questionable. This other
I
end,
mean, the other end.
the other end that we're going to do today, I'm hoping.
'Cause
I'm
you
hoping
may-
to have a 7-foot door in it today.
Yeah, you may want to be able to throw stuff in a pickup.
Sure. I mean, it's I'm building it as big as I can along the restrictions of what has to go above it. And those, the louvers and the blower have to go above it. Other than that, I'm making it as big as we can. It's- The camp wood's going out as fast as we can bag it still. We just don't have enough people to keep up with the demand. I'm down to 2 inmates this morning.
How many?
2.
2?
I started off last week with 2, and then we jumped up to around 7, 6, 7, something like that. And then this week we've been down to 4, and then today we're down to 2. So I just don't have enough guys. I mean,
Any reasons given for?
they don't have a lot in there. There's not a lot of sentencing going on right now, apparently, with the courts or whatever. He's given me what he can. Jason Henry's been really well working with us and trying to make sure everybody that's available to go out is on the list to go. It's just they don't have a lot to work with, so we're down to 2, and pretty much those 2 have been working on the hoop house.
Yeah.
So I've got orders for bagged wood, but I'm at the point where I'm going to have to put them off for another week or cancel some orders because I just can't fill them.
You don't want to cancel it.
You don't want to cancel because you won't get them back.
But is there a deadline for these orders? Do they want to have it by a certain time?
Yes, yeah, they would like it for the weekend. We'll see what happens is they pretty much have basically 2 vendors. They have us and the state prison farm as their vendors.
Okay.
State prison farm's all out of wood, so they have nothing. So we have the wood, we just don't have it bagged. So we're trying to bag it as fast as we get the orders. But right now, I've had I've had probably 3 to 4 campgrounds call, each willing to take a load, which is 450 bags per campground. I've got 100 bags out there right now, and one person bagging. I mean, I've got Joe and 1 inmate, two guys out there bagging. It's just not enough to keep up with the orders.
Yeah, I would suggest you take the 2 off the hoop house and
But
put
I-
them out there.
But if I do that,
That's the moneymaker, right, for the
I know, but
firewood?
that's a grant, and the gentleman that sold it to us can't get his money until we have it complete because the grant doesn't pay it. So he went on a limb to let us get this and get it built. So I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Excuse me, is the saying.
But is there a certain time when you have the hoop house needs to be done? Is
Yeah, as
that
quick as
limited?
possible. So that's why we're working on it
So
every
you can
single day.
still
We came
take,
in.
you can still take 2 off now for a couple days just to back it for the weekend, right? Just to help out these few days then.
I only have 2 people. So I came in Sunday. We worked Sunday on this hoop house, and we're planning on working this weekend on this hoop house to get it finished. So we're working extra days trying to do this, but we only have two inmates. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but the 2 people from the hoop house,
Sure,
there are 2 different people, right?
that's the only 2 people I have. Period.
Oh, so the total is 2. They're
Total
doing
is
the
2.
hoop house and they're doing the bagging wood.
Exactly.
Oh, I was
So I have to-
understanding that you had 4, that 2 work on the
No, no.
hoop house and 2 work for the bagging.
No,
Oh, okay.
I have 2 total, so I have to juggle where do I put those 2? And 2 guys, still 2 guys bagging wood's it's not enough. You really need 4 to 6 guys out there bagging wood to fill these type of orders. So even with 2, you're not gonna
Okay.
put a big dent in it.
I don't know how the board feels, but I would say take them off the hoop house and get the wood out.
Yeah, I think that the 2 should work, but you still say it is not enough to the order, the bagging.
We don't want to lose any accounts because we don't have the wood.
We have the wood, but we don't have
I don't think
people
it's.
to bag it, I guess.
I don't feel that we're gonna lose any accounts on this. We're just losing out on potential profit because we can't fill it. Doesn't mean that we're not gonna have that next year. I mean, there are other
Is the
persons.
hoop house going to bring any revenue in?
It's gonna bring some to grow vegetables, but that doesn't really matter. If we made a commitment to build this thing so the guy can get paid,
Yeah.
he's laid out all this money of bringing this thing to us. He can't get paid till we assemble
This
it.
coming from
So-
Wedgewood Farm?
Yes, so he's sticking there waiting for a bill, waiting to be paid for us to assemble this, so the government will give him his money.
But you said, you mentioned
David, you
as
want to
quick
take a
as
recess and
possible?
you go down and call Mr. Pearson and explain the situation, because you know him from your past experiences?
Yeah.
At the end of the,
I mean, we got 2 things here going, Willie. We don't want to get whoever the customers are mad enough to say, well, get down to the crunch time, we count on Carroll County and they don't deliver. That's gonna lose us customers. And it is a place where we get our revenue. I would think we'd make an attempt to call let Commissioner
Why don't I try to
Sorensen call
call-
Mr. Pearson and talk to him and
Yeah.
explain the situation. I'll
Yeah.
call Jason and see if we can get a couple more guys.
After this meeting, I'll call Pearson, I know him, and see what he says, and then I'll get back to you. Okay.
And to go along with your comment, Commissioner Babson, of generally we have four to five that we always take care of, and then there's another 4 to 5 that the prison farm takes care of, and they occasionally buy from us if the prison farm is out of wood. That's a lot of what the situation's going on. Our 4 or 5 that we always take care of,
I've taken care
we've been
of.
taking care of them. They have top priority as far as I'm concerned because they're the ones we supply to every year, year in, year out. It's these other ones. Now, there's one guy who, of course, manages the retail stores for all of them, so he's trying to, shuffle who needs wood and whatever, and he's supposed to be getting back with me, but they're all hurting because the prison farm was out of wood, so they're all the ones calling, wanting something from us. But ours that we normally take care of.
Well, we should be
I
trying to pick off a couple of the prison's
I
customers too.
Yeah, I
Of
think where
course.
we got revenue involved, I think we ought to try to get as much as we can. Okay? I'll call Ledgewood Farm.
Okay.
And I'll call Jason.
The next thing on the list is, that I came here for a lot was the update on the pole barn bids. As far as I'm aware of, yesterday, I think it was when I called, there wasn't any that came in yet, for the pole barn. We'd set the date to have them in for today. That being said, I have at least one. They came out yesterday. I spent probably an hour with them, took them on site, explaining everything that I wanted to have happen. They have one trip up why they couldn't put the bid in yet. Of course, they just found out at the beginning of this week. But digging the holes part, they have a few people that they're going to have to hire to come do that part. That's the part we couldn't find either. They just didn't have a price on that part yet. So they asked if it's possible, if we could extend it, give them an extra week, so they can put that piece together. And in the meantime, another person that I know passed my number and information that we had this going on to another crew. I have not heard back from that second crew. So I'm thinking if we give a week here, maybe this week, this just all happened pretty much yesterday. So
Yeah.
if we extended another week, possibly that other person might get back with me. Plus, this one that is very interested could have time to get the hole digging part numbers put together for us.
Well, I don't see any problem in holding up for a week. We've got to get somebody to bid on it. You don't have the time to do it.
Right.
The other thing is, somebody from the Sherman Farm in East Conway or another farm that has put up pole barns. They must know of people that do that.
It's the drilling the holes that's the problem, David.
Right. This crew's all ready.
Anybody can put the pole barn up once they get but they got to dig
What is it, you need a
24 6-foot holes, right?
Yeah, I think they're going up to 12-inch hole.
12-inch hole.
10 to 12-inch hole, and then it's 4 to 6 feet deep is the big thing. And there's a couple of people. This one crew that I've been talking to yesterday, they're local. They're out of Moultonborough, and they're talking to some other ones that they know that bought the telephone trucks when they sell them. They bought them,
Yep.
and they do
Yep.
this kind of thing.
Yep.
They're just trying to get a hold of them and get a price.
Okay.
It's kind of a last, they weren't aware of it or whatever, and it's a last minute thing. They're trying to put all that together for us. They're very interested.
Okay.
They have a crew of, I think he said 5 to 6 guys. So
It'll go up. Right?
they get it. I told them our requirements that we want to have it done by mid-November at the latest. So they know what's going on as far as all that and can probably, I don't know what their bid's going to be if we can afford it, but hopefully. But time-wise, they can do it. They just need some time to get this part of the bid together.
Now, the purpose of the pole barn is so that inmates can work through offenders can work through the winter bagging and storing of campfire wood. So next year, we wouldn't run into this problem of not having enough bagged.
Correct.
So we'd be hopefully ahead of this game.
Ahead of the game. Now, to be honest, if it's 20 degrees out there and
Yeah.
blowing. I don't have a heat source out there. It's awful cold.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of days when it's above 30, 35 that we can put them out there. Rainy days, they're undercover, they can keep on working. Plus, they're not handling the wood so much. You know, right now they're throwing the wood into the barn, then bagging it, and then they have to carry it way out to load the truck. This, we're gonna set our processor up so we process, and as it dumps, it's gonna dump it right in the barn.
Mhm.
So they pick it up and bag it and set it there, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal to be moving wood, but the more you're moving it,
Mhm.
that's less time that you're actually standing there bagging it.
Right,
So we're hoping that the efficiency on that really improves with that building.
okay. I see no problem extending it for another week.
Okay. The last thing I had for the commissioners was in the line item in our maintenance budget. I asked for $3,000 in that. Normally we get $1,400 in that line item. I
Mhm.
asked this year to go up to $3,000, and the reason I asked is we needed one more tire for the backhoe because we had replaced 3 of the 4 tires. We needed one more to replace, and I also needed to replace the tires on our plow truck. They're practically bald. I barely got through last season plowing with it.
Mhm.
Now we've gone all summer because we didn't need the extra tire, but now we're getting to the time of the year I need to get extra tires on that.
Okay,
Apparently while I was gone, I missed a couple of meetings at the end due to the death of my family.
Mhm.
It got slipped through the cracks, whatever, they went back to 1,400, they took the 3,000 out. So now I still need the tires. At the bottom line of that budget, I think we're still gonna be fine. It's just that one particular line item,
Mhm.
I'm gonna need to overspend.
okay, we need to know where you would take the money from. What other line item?
Probably the sand and gravel line item, because we've got over $5,000 left in that sand and gravel line item. So we would take it out of.
And
it's-
3,000 would be enough to do your tires?
I only need $700 left.
But 3,000 would take care of purchasing the tires that you need?
Right, with what's also spent there.
Okay,
That's what I originally budgeted for, and if we stay within that, we should be able to stay within that 3,000.
okay.
So actually you need 1,600, right?
Right, I needed about I needed about $1,200 it was for the backhoe tire, and it's about $700 for the truck tires. So around $1,900 is what I needed.
So even if you had a $3,000 and you still had a little bit less in, you needed more because
Right.
you said you put in $3,000, but you got 1,400. So
Yeah.
that means you didn't get 1,600, but the tire's costing more. So even
It
if you
costs-
had a $3,000, you needed some more.
Well, I wouldn't have spent, would have been $300 difference, right? 16 versus 19. I
Yeah.
could have subtracted that out of the 1,400. I would have tried to absorb that in that.
Oh, okay.
But that was my plan, was just absorb that. But instead, we got cut all the way back to the 1,400, so I don't even have enough. There's other things we spend on that line item that need to be done every year, and I've spent those things, and plus tires had to go on there.
So did you spend the whole 1,400?
Yes, I've overspent that line item already.
Oh, you overspent it already,
Yes.
okay.
Commissioner
So you
Babson?
need now for the tires, right? So you need now, how much for the tires?
I need
The
about-
backhoe, and you need 4 tires for the plow truck?
Yes.
And what is the total? Is it 1,900,
Yes.
1,700?
Yeah, I've already spent the backhoe tire. I've already replaced that.
Oh, okay.
That's done. Now I need to
Okay, what
get
do you need to spend now? You need only 4 tires for the dump truck,
for the plow truck, yes.
the plow truck, okay. And how much is that?
Approximately $700.
Okay, so you need now 700,
Yes.
okay.
What you do is, whatever money you need, give us that amount and where in your budget you're gonna take it from,
Okay.
okay?
So I have.
Anything over $1,000 in a line item, we need to get delegation approval to get money from another line item.
Okay, so I'm
Okay.
getting really confused because things change here a lot.
Yeah.
My
Okay.
understanding was if we have it within the bottom line
No.
and we're gonna spend over 1,000, the department heads have to come to the commissioners and ask to take it out of another line item within the same budget. If we're going from one budget to another budget, then the commissioners have to get approval from the delegation.
That's
I
true.
think that
was
is what
my
we said.
understanding.
So now
That's-
you're confusing me with
Because
what you're
that
saying.
is the policy actually,
That's
what we
true.
made
When
for
you,
the
when we have to
$1,000.
take it from another
Right, and I'm not asking you to
budget.
do that.
No, I know you're not.
Okay.
You're still gonna stay within your bottom line.
Right.
Okay,
And I haven't spent over 1,000, but when I spend that 700, I'm gonna be over the 1,000, and that's why I'm coming to ask
okay,
to do that.
yep. Okay, go ahead, Commissioner.
Well, in my limited experience with tractors and backhoes and things, they always say to switch, if you're changing tires, switch both fronts or both backs at the same time. Are we working towards that? Why are we out getting one? Did you puncture one that you can't
Originally,
use?
yes, originally we punctured a back one, and then
And replaced it?
we replaced it. Then we were
But
going
you
to.
didn't replace it's made
We
at the same time, so you're out of whack.
Right, we didn't have, we were about 6 months off. We did what you said, but we were about 6 months off because of how the budgets landed. I was planning to put in for 2 tires this year, but one blew before our budget season, so I had to replace it.
Okay.
So I just put in for the 1 tire, and that's why. And how the budgets landed, we were able to put 1 off last year and 1 planned for this year. Last year's wasn't planned, so I had to absorb it somewheres, and, I found the money to pay for it because it's a necessity. And then we planned for the 1 this year, and it landed about 6 months off. But now they're all
I'm not worried about
replaced.
where the money came from. The idea is you don't have 3 years on one tire and 1 year on the other. That's relatively close.
Right, they're all replaced now, all
Okay.
4 are replaced, and it all happened exactly.
Okay, like I said, request the amount of money that you need and what line item you're gonna take it from to this board.
Okay.
Okay?
He already said the same thing.
I
yeah.
am asking him to do that. Anything else, Will?
I don't think so, not at this point, unless commissioners have anything else for me.
Can I just ask for clarification?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the budget and trying to figure out which line item you're speaking about. I don't see one that's just for,
You see anything for maintenance?
yes.
If you're in the maintenance budget and you look at, there's one for sand and gravel. If you look about 2 line items above it, there should be one called vehicle expense. It's 4193 is our maintenance, outside maintenance budget.
That's why. I was looking at the farm.
Oh, okay. So if you look at that, there should be.
It's right there. Yep.
073, I believe it is. It
Yep.
says vehicle expenditures. I've overspent that line item, and I need to spend a little bit more to get tires. And I
Okay.
plan on, it's 2 line items below it. This answers the commissioner's question. I'm not sure, is that
075.
075 says sand and gravel, and there's over 5,000 left in that line item.
Yep.
That's the one that I want to take
Okay.
it out of. So I'm taking it out of 075 and putting it at 073.
Thank you. Just for clarification for the notes. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay?
Is that, do you still want that written down? Or?
Yeah, put it in
Okay.
writing to us, yeah. Anything else on the board?
Keep up the
Okay.
good work, Will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Yes.
Okay, Robin?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, 2 of you were at the conference last Friday. I just wanted to follow up a little bit on that.
Okay.
The felonies first. Looks like it's gonna be a huge endeavor. One of our representatives was there, Karen Umberger.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned to her that it might be nice to have a committee, a county committee, with some state representatives on it and whoever from the,
Mm-hmm.
if not all of you, some of you on the board to start looking at that. I know it's out there, and I thought I heard the Chief Justice say she was gonna roll out some of it in September of 2015.
Mm.
When I spoke with Judge Garfunkel the other day, he said that's what he thought he'd heard too, but then he thought maybe it was 2016. So I know the Chief Justice said she was going to be introducing legislation this term, which I was sort of surprised about, but,
Mm-hmm.
and I know everything hinges on that, but, yes, I just wanted us to be thinking about I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in this, and speaking with Judge Garfunkel, even the judges are a little, everybody has their concerns about how this is gonna.
Everybody has their silo, is what
It's
George
true.
Valera said, right?
Yeah, it's true. And it's not so much a silo as that, we're looking at a system that's been in place for quite some time, and it's been entrenched, and moving off of that and getting all the parties in the same direction is gonna take it's gonna be a huge endeavor, so,
Basically leaving out circuit court.
correct.
So
Which
they
makes
don't, they don't want
efficiently-
to lose their jobs.
Oh, they won't, they don't have to worry about that. They're busy. I mean, I would think that's sort of one of the drivers. No one really has talked about that, but
Mm.
the circuit court, district court judges are very busy. Nights and weekends, you're doing
That's what
search
they're
warrants
planning on.
and all kinds of stuff, but, and I think it makes a lot of sense. It makes it more efficient, but the efficiencies need to be looked at, how we're gonna plan this out, so.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd like us to be a little, as soon as that legislation, if it happens, if it passes, I'm hoping we can get a working group together, and we can start taking a look and,
Commissioner Babson, would you like to be on that committee?
I wouldn't mind if I'm still here.
If you're still here? Okay.
well, I mean, whether you or I are still here or not, I think it's something that,
Yeah.
the
If
county
not, I
needs to.
will be.
Yeah. Yep. So that's all. I just wanted to keep that in the forefront of everybody's thoughts about how we're gonna move forward on that piece.
Okay. I've witnessed, or the three of us actually have witnessed two of your assistant attorneys over at the courthouse. I think they've done a pretty good job. When somebody's in there for heroin, you see the plea? I mean, you agree with the assistant attorney as to
Yeah,
basically not giving them any jail time?
generally what's happening is that we meet in the office about the plea offers as a
Mhm.
group, and I have the final stamp of approval or not.
Yeah.
The focus of all of the opiate addictions is to get people into rehab, clearly.
Which leads me to another question. Do we have any,
No.
an organization or individuals that would work with these offenders dealing with drugs?
Well, that.
How do they have to go to another county?
Yeah,
And they've got, what, 3 months to do it in? To get a, set up for a course?
Well, it depends in the New Hope program, there had been some grant money available to get people into this, but
Yeah.
that money has been cut. One of the things I spoke with Representative Umberger about last Friday was,
Mhm.
and it came up at our small group meeting, I think you were both there, but even the defense said Carroll County
Yeah.
has no resources.
Yeah.
And her response was that, yes, there are plenty of resources. They're private.
I heard her say that, but where are they?
Yeah, I mean, the people we're dealing with in our justice system don't have the funds or ability to pay for the services. The grant was great for that. And she talked about a peer-to-peer support group. Well, that's not appropriate for someone going through the criminal
Yeah.
justice system, frankly. So, I mean, that's something, we need to be really, I hope, looking at and trying to get
Mhm.
resolved with, I don't know how we did. I know I had spoken with Commissioner Babson at some point about having a mental health counselor on the county staff, because between mental health and substance abuse, those are the really two big
Mhm.
issues that we're facing in the.
Well, Robin, you're absolutely right, because, we just granted a special exception for a new program for drug and alcohol rehabilitation in Ossipee, and it's $5,000 for the person to get in. And, they're out stealing to pay for their drugs, they're not gonna be paying to have the money to pay to,
Yeah, yep.
definitely.
So the Medicaid expansion is supposed to have, and I don't know this, I've been told it has a substance abuse component to it that'll pay for that. So I know we're trying to steer all of the New Hope participants into getting on, those benefits so they can hook up with that.
Mhm.
When
We
is
had
that
it-
New Hope, is it the first Thursday
Yes.
every month?
Yep. Yeah, I invited Representative Umberger to come. Since you try and make it.
And
You
wha-
sit there and you listen to them, there's sad stories. We heard one yesterday while we were sitting in court.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a horrible addiction. The opiate it's tough. It's not like you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps with this particular. I mean, the addictive piece of it is devastating. So we had a really one therapist was in Conway, and she had started a really, I thought, innovative and great program, substance abuse program. It included counseling and acupuncture. But
Is that
it
to
had-
let the stuff out?
I'm sorry? Yeah, right.
Let it out?
Right, but, people couldn't afford to go, so it stopped.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah. And we've hit on the private therapists, the private agencies, individuals to provide counseling, and they can't absorb all of it.
it was really enlightening over, one of the citrus crew was a 20-year-old kid, 21-year-old kid. We got talking, and he looks at me and he said, you just don't understand what addiction is, because I'd asked him, I said, you get locked up here for a year, you can't dry out, you can't, whatever you do, the desire doesn't go away. He said, no, he said, it's in your head, you can't. And it's just a terrible thing.
We had one defendant go through the New Hope program, did exceptionally well.
And then blew it.
He graduated and was then smoking spice and shooting heroin again. He was still on probation, so we came back into the program. He had
You give him a second chance?
great. We did. I was like, come on, you've done it once. You can do it again. We can work through this. Because he has a state prison sentence hanging over his head. The New Hope is like your last shot, buddy. But he got into a crash up in North Conway, and he's gone. I look at the jail list every morning, hoping I'm going to see his name, that they found him, but I don't know where he is. Terrified that he's going to have overdosed. But we had an overdose yesterday.
Yeah,
last
yesterday,
night.
the day before.
Yep,
Yeah,
in Moultonboro.
yeah, he was the one that was in.
Yeah.
That was
Okay.
what do they call the program down in Stratford? Not New Hope,
The drug court.
drug court.
Yep.
The drug court, what struck me is that the judge was, I won't say lenient, because that isn't what he was, but he worked with these kids that, some of them have been off 2 or 3 times, and they come back to jail for a year, for a week, and then they try it again, and I think out of the 10 that graduated, there must have been 3 or 4 that had second chances, and the second chance worked out.
Yeah, when I was at the public safety day that we had here in the county that Saturday, and I remember speaking with Sergeant Phillips from the jail, talking about this particular defendant, saying, I don't want to send him to state prison. When we catch him, let's do something here. Let's get him back on track. And Sergeant Phillips was all on board, but I don't know where he is.
Could you work with the attorney in Stratford County? I talked to George McGlaris, and he is willing to help us with a drug court. And I asked him to provide us with some documentation as to what it would cost to have his people come up here, or whatever could be worked out, so
Well-
that we have some coverage, some way of helping these people out.
The New Hope program is like a drug court light. I understand that drug court meets every week, as opposed to we would meet once a month. It really is sort of dependent on judge availability also.
Mhm.
I'm not sure with one judge, because they've got more than one
Judge
judge.
Fowler's still around?
He is, and he comes occasionally. He's going to be
Because
in,
he had offered to me anyway to do it for Carroll County.
Yeah, but he's not here anymore.
yeah,
Well,
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna be sitting for 2 weeks in October. I don't, that's sort of, I don't know whether I don't think he can just come. I mean, he has to get paid, and he's gonna come through the court system, and that's, And actually, speaking of Judge Favre, we're also talking about trying to start up settlement conferences, which is a new program for the state. And I've asked if Judge Favre could be our settlement mediator, so he'll be around. But anyway, the drug court, I think we've got 4 people in it now. And we've offered it to other defendants, and some of them just said no. I mean, people we think are appropriate to be in the new program, they don't want to do it, it's too intensive. So our numbers, unfortunately I don't think support, I'm not sure it would make a difference at this point. We're trying to get people into it, we're actively trying to seek. I talked to Jesse Friedman, about who have you got, who do you think will be good, and like I said, I know we're talking with Chuck Wolford, and he'll do an initial interview with the people, and they're not interested. So
Does that indicate, Robin, that when they get out, they want to go right back to drugs?
it's something they don't want to give up.
Yeah.
And they're doing a great job over at the jail. I mean, we've started that Thinking for a Change program, and Sergeant Phillips is working closely with people trying to, make some changes in that line. But when they get back out in the community, it's
They
the
go
same,
back to the same environment.
exactly. You get the same friends. You get the same. We need a support network out there.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's, I know everybody's busy and everybody's got their budget stretched, but
This group that Ossipee approved, working in the church,
Yep.
is that deals with drugs, right?
Yes, drug and alcohol.
How do they conduct their business?
Well, the big pitch was that it was a Christian-based or a religious-based program.
although they
And
have,
it goes for 12 weeks, I think they said,
yeah, and they've got an ongoing.
and it's nationwide.
Oh, okay. They've got an ongoing church-based group also that, and they say it's spiritual and there's prayer involved, but it's not necessary. You don't need to believe to come to the program, so.
Okay.
Robin, how are you
more
up
good
to
news.
date on your assistants? We
Good.
got a full bank?
Yes and no. I've got one starting full-time October 2nd. She's coming in a couple of days a week until then. She'll be here, she was here Monday, she'll be here Friday.
Is that the young lady you introduced us to from Concord? Well, a couple
No.
of weeks ago?
No. Megan's here full-time.
Okay.
Was she
Anything
in
further?
court yesterday?
Yes.
Okay. I thought she looked just like
Yeah.
Captain Hebert's wife.
Oh, Karen Hebert.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Karen. Right?
Yeah. Yep, interesting.
In fact, I almost
She does a little, yeah.
talked with her, but it didn't quite fit.
Right.
All right, thank
Okay,
you, Robin.
thank you.
Okay, Jason?
Good morning.
Can I ask him the first question? Can I
Hey.
ask him the first
Yeah,
question?
go ahead.
Jay, we just heard from Willie, and he's got 2 inmates out working. We're way behind on our wood. We got the high tunnel going up. Is there any way you can find a couple of more willing workers over there?
They have everybody that we got a couple of disciplinary issues, so they're not out there. We sent a couple out in electronic monitoring, so they're no longer there. Everybody that, and I talked to Will last week, everybody that we have, and we even changed some criteria to give him more people that stretching, meet the criteria, he has. When some people come off their disciplinary stuff, they'll be able to go back out, and he'll have a couple more there. That's what I have is what I have for 'em.
These are all male inmates?
Yep.
What about female inmates?
Female inmates, no one meets criteria right now. The ones we had, they have left.
Oh,
So,
Well, what happened? I was over there 2 days ago, and there were 5, 6, or 7 of them sitting at the table having lunch.
Mhm.
Why are we down to 2?
we had a couple
disciplinary.
a couple of them are released. So they're there for a short duration of time. They've been released already. A couple out to, they said electronic monitoring, because now we're up to 4 in electronic monitoring, and a couple of internal discipline issues.
Okay.
I mean, it goes up and down just like that.
And am I incorrect or correct? Can't you get a person that hasn't gone to trial yet, they can sign a release and work outside if they want, right? Provided you
Pre-trial,
classified-
inside, outside, it's still, we're working on a pre-trial. There's no other county except for Belknap County who's still doing it a little bit. Everybody's gotten away from it. There are some problems with using pre-trial, and again, it's also creating criteria of looking at bail, making sure the court's okay with it. We're exploring the option, but again, you have to get the courts on board because there's usually bail involved with those people as well too. Sometimes it's significant, and so creating a criteria. The other counties that used to have it, they have all little different criterias. Everybody's gotten away from it except for Belknap, and I'm talking to Superintendent Ward about it a little bit, how they're kind of doing it. But when I say stretching, we've also changed some other criterias to use more offenders, is why he had some last week. And if we get some more of those type of offenders, we will put them out there as well too. I anticipate I'll have a couple more by the end of this week, at least.
Well, keep in mind, we need them badly. I mean, that's no excuse for putting out one that's gonna be a risk, but.
Okay, go ahead.
We have 4 on electronic monitoring right now. 1 on this work release. We have 3 transfers. A couple of them are at State Hospital. Total population of 50. I was going to hand you guys the only bid so far that I have for the roof. It's sealed. We had a couple of offenders this past week with Sergeant Phillips. I went down to one of the municipalities and painted their shed for them. They were very appreciative. That was a good project for them.
Now, getting back to the first question, we got 2 offenders going off campus to do work. Why weren't they left on campus to do work here?
The farm was all set in that day. Those 2 have also left us.
Okay.
They were already released. We squeezed them out just before we left because one of the gentlemen had already done work for the municipality, so we were trying to get him out just before he left to finish up his last project. But he was released this weekend. The paperwork for Carroll County to us to hold Fed holds has been submitted and is being reviewed by them. I think I told you last week, but just want to make sure.
You get that whole stack of papers, and all other questions all in, and
I can't guarantee it's all correct, but I sent it to them, and I'd love to know.
Okay.
I guess they review it and send you back what you may have not done so clearly.
That's fine.
you get any idea? I forgot to ask the young man when he was here, the marshal, what's the time breakdown between when you submit it and when you're informed whether you get a prisoner or 2?
I don't know. First step is them reviewing the application, and when I called the technical support people, they weren't so technical on filling the paperwork out. They helped out a little bit, and they didn't give me indication on what the process was. Once they approve it and back and forth, then we go sit down to marshals, and again, it's going to depend on what they have. The marshals' numbers are low. Berlin opened up, so they don't have a lot of numbers. I did say that we would also entertain also taking them from Maine as well, if Maine, because we're so close, if Maine
The
needed
day
some.
I sat down with them, their concern was female prisoners from Maine.
Mhm.
They don't have any more?
I don't know. It's the paperwork's in, and I put that in the bottom. We were taking them. I gave them a count of how many males and how many females we can take, so and it's all on there. It's just a matter of them reviewing it and what they have available.
Okay.
Okay.
We anticipate hiring an LPN either by end this week or beginning next week for the evening position that is open.
Do we need to fill that position?
Yes,
We only have 50 inmates.
yes, because the meds are.
Just for coverage?
Yes, and giving distribution of medication, those kinds of things, yes.
Okay.
we're in a process of adding lockers to our waiting area out in the lobby so that way visitors can lock up their items. It just hasn't been there. We had a locker out in Building C, so we're making some little upgrades out there. In the female housing unit, offenders are painting inspirational quote on the wall under supervision of Sergeant Phillips. The quote is, "We all have two lives. The second begins when we realize we only have one." So it's a little project that they're doing, and they came forward with Sergeant Phillips and wanted to do it. It's no cost to us. We already have the paint. Yesterday I attended a Primex training. It was on contracts, being careful what you sign. It was informative. I have a better understanding a little bit of RFPs and some of the language that comes in contracts, the hidden language a little bit. So it was helpful to go to and just so I can understand. I have a better understanding of some of the things that.
Do you remember who put that on?
Primex.
I know Primex, but the individual?
When that, I tell you, there's two ladies that put it on. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. Make sure that you send to HR any of the training that you've received. That's one of the items in the performance audit, is that we don't have a list of people that have received training. Even though we've done training, HR doesn't have that, and so any training that we've done, even with your sergeants or anybody at the jail,
Well, it's all
make
kept.
sure that the information go to HR.
Do you want HR in their files and make them this thick, or like most correctional facilities, we have the training director. All those files are up to date with every bit of training that they have. So
Yep.
if anyone wants to come in and look at their training files, we have them all.
Check with Gwinnett,
Okay.
because I think the audit, performance audit says that it should all be in HR. So check with Gwinnett.
Okay.
No reason why you can't have copies, but
It didn't specifically suggest that the corrections department hadn't been putting the training.
No,
in.
it didn't
was
say-
an overall
it's
view
overall.
of the
Yep.
of the county's policies that we ought to be recording
Yep.
training for every individual.
I'll check HR, and we do record for every individual of all their training.
Mhm.
I would believe the sheriff's department does the same thing, so.
Okay.
I've also brought some items that you asked
Go ahead.
overspent on some line items to
Yep.
bring to you. And kind of reasons why. Over.
Jay, would you do us a favor in the future, make 4 copies so that Melissa will always have one?
She can have mine. I'll give her mine.
Okay.
So that way. Right now, line it's over, that is over is our maintenance / building repair by about $8,500. We had significant boiler issues this year, about $10,000 worth of work. The HVAC system failed. That was $4,200, plus other maintenance issues here that just added up. Those are the 2 glaring ones that I want to point out.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Jason, my recollection was when we paid for the boiler, it was a connection issue that they said, with some gaskets, they said that 1 or 2 of the other ones were sure to go.
One of the big issues with the boiler was all the, we had to replace all the lines on one of the boilers. There was all the gaskets on one of the boilers.
And he said
that's-
the other one was ready to go, so you're gonna make sure you put that money in the budget next year,
Correct.
or this coming year to repair.
I met with Representative Smith on Monday too, and we talked about the same thing, make sure. I
Oh, you met with him?
Yes, I did.
How'd that go?
Good. Good. And I showed him everything that where we're at. So
Okay.
he was more concerned about the bottom line, make sure it wasn't going to bottom line. Other areas of concern, obviously, is overtime. We're not over yet. We anticipate we're probably going to go over.
Can you, overtime is a tough issue, but there's no way that you can stay within the budget.
No, it's not going to happen. Or if I'm not over this month already, then I will be. People take sick days. We have to cover hospital duties.
I know hospital duty is a problem, but
And
general operation of the jail,
turnover of staff when we have to cover academies. It's, yeah. And my opinion, do I think it was under budgeted if you look at the past history
yeah.
of what was there? Yes.
Okay.
Medical service supplies, we are about even now. We will go over budget line. We had 3 significant medical issues this year, called multiple hospital trips. You're well aware of some of those costs.
Well, as you all know, because we signed them here a couple of weeks ago, 1 week was $29,000.
Yeah.
And I have some ideas for next year's budget. I've been reaching out to superintendents of different way of structuring it, and I'll present both of those to you. I spoke with Representative Schmidt, and he likes some of the ideas as well.
That would be having a contingency fund somewhere for,
One county does a contingency fund, a lump sum of money, and if you have surgeries come up, that's where they pull out of, not your regular medical expenses, that's supposed to be for day-to-day, maybe a hospital trip here and there, not major surgeries. One of the other facilities, anything that's over $5,000 on a surgery, they go to the commissioners bring it to the delegation, and it's pulled out of the county budget, not out of the jail budget, because it's normal day-to-day operations budget, you can't anticipate these giant surgeries and other medical issues. Other fees and services, looks like we're gonna be okay. We had some unforeseen legal fees that came out of there, and but we'll keep an eye on it, and I'll keep you updated. Heating expense, as of the end of August, we're at 85% of the budget was spent. I'm gonna assume, or anticipate, we're gonna go over that with the coming weather. And money where we could move money from, administrative salaries, because we haven't been fully staffed there. Nursing salaries, we have not been fully staffed this year. Supplies from nursing home, have money left there because we've been buying things through a different company at a much cheaper rate of the things that we use than what they use and how they get stuff.
Have you let them know of these other companies?
I'll check with the captain.
You know?
No, I'll double check the captain. I thought we did, but I'll make sure that they do know this other company.
Okay.
Chaplain, we didn't have a full-time chaplain this year, so we have money left in there. As of August 31st, we were only 59% spent of the budget, keeping on the bottom line and keep up the progress, and anticipate not going over the bottom line. So, and when I spoke with
Okay.
Representative Schmidt, I showed him everything. He was
He
okay
did.
with where I was at and understood.
Okay.
When I pointed out everything that put us to where it's
Did you
at.
give them a copy of this?
No, I just did this. We sat down and actually went over the budget,
Okay.
and I gave him a copy of each line item of the budget. We went over everything. We went over every detail that was on each line of why we're over.
I got a question.
You're
David.
responsible for the jail, but don't you think the chairman of the subcommittee ought to get a copy of this?
Yes.
I'll send it to him.
I think you should send it to him.
Jason, I was always told that the one item you couldn't move money out of was salaries.
Yeah,
I don't know, I just was.
we can't. The delegation might be able to.
Correct. I think you wanted me to ask to bring forward some places you could ask the delegation to move from.
Yeah.
What would be the logic behind that we can't move it, but the
Because it's
Delegation
earmarked
can.
for salaries, not to be spent anyplace else. It's one category in the budget that we've always never touched.
I know.
There's other savings and other lines here and there, just have to, as we get a little closer, add them up, so it might not have touched
Yeah.
salaries. I was just going off of what was glaring in my face of what I could.
It's up
pull
to the
from.
delegation.
Yep, but as we get a little closer, I can add up each line where we're at and give you a breakdown of where you can pull from everywhere. Try to.
Yeah. I'd recommend that you send this copy to him,
I will. I'll send them today.
because where we've overspent, that needs to be brought to the delegation. Okay?
Jason, are any of these supplies that you say you purchased better than,
Nursing home?
well, I'm trying to figure out supplies from nursing home. We have 5,000 left in this line as we used another company to purchase our supplies. So
When I
you're
got there-
buying from another source than the nursing home.
Cheaper.
Correct. The captain found out
Are
places
you,
cheaper.
are they aware that you're able to get the same product?
We're not getting the same,
cheaper?
the other thing is, we're not getting the same product. We are using different products than they are. Our laundry, we're using different detergent. Our machines are a little different than theirs, and what we need in ours, so we're able to drop it down and use things differently. But I will let them know the company that we're using, that they can explore and make some phone
Yeah.
calls to that company if they don't know.
Does this represent, did you just say one company, a company, or it represents a bunch of companies?
Punch company, I mean, well, biggest part of our cleaning stuff is one company. They've saved a significant amount of money. And then little things here and there, we can, believe it or not, you can look over prices over here and government prices, but if you search around, look at Amazon, you can find a price even cheaper out of there. There are places that are cheaper if you pay attention to even paper. If you go, like I said, Porter Paper, we bought some from them on the cheap, but then you go W. Mason's next week and they're $2 less. So we shop around before we order stuff, looking at different places, and even the government prices is not always the best. So wherever we can save $1 here, $2 there, anywhere else, it's,
Is Lori now doing your purchasing, or will she be doing the purchasing as part of her,
right now she's still learning the ins and out job. At some point, we don't do a lot of purchasing, but we'll hopefully transfer it over to her from the captain batchelder at some point, yeah.
Okay.
Anybody got any further questions? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pass these over to
Um,
Melissa.
We only got one bid, right?
That's all I have. Melissa.
Yep. Sorry. Shall we open this bid? We don't have any other people that's interested, that you know of.
So,
The people from the nursing home at one point came over and looked at it, but I have not seen anything from them.
when was it due? Is there a deadline?
Way past, months and
Oh,
months.
okay.
Yeah, but let's
We
hold
put it,
off.
we put it out
I
again.
thought you put it out again, so what is the new deadline then?
Already gone past. It's been
Past
gone
due?
past, yeah, it's past, way past due.
David, let's hold
I've
off
had
for a week
them
and
extend
we'll
their
call
date.
Excel and find out they were interested in quoting it.
So
But-
Okay.
oh,
it was open to anybody because everybody missed deadlines. There was no,
okay.
everybody was well beyond the RFP, and it was put out again too.
But you have some more?
Yes, it's strictly for probation. All right, we'll hold off on that one.
Well, what about probation? Maybe we oughta,
Oh, well, we ought to have Bob Murray do that, right?
yeah. But we also ought to make sure that some people have made some calls and whether people come in to quote the job or not.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of be the last week, next week he comes in with whatever bids we have and we give them to him for his recommendation. We gotta get going on it.
I will not be here next week,
Okay,
okay?
I'll do that.
So I'll give those to you. And we don't have anybody else.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Would you make a note on the action list that we've got these bids to take care of, please, Melissa?
Okay, Dominic?
Morning?
Good morning.
I think the reason I was here was, there was some question on, we asked for signatures on a support letter, basically for a grant that we will be submitting. We're asking to submit, it's an exact copy of last year's approval letter that you all signed off on in support of the communications grant that we tried to get of almost $1 million.
Have you given this to the
We just got
grant
it.
committee?
We just got it.
Would you please?
Basically, they just opened it up, and the application has to be in by October 3rd.
Well, then you
I
better
brought
get it
a
to him
copy
today.
of the blank grant that they can review, but
Is this the grant that you applied for last year but
Yes.
didn't receive it?
yes.
So now it's open again, you can apply?
Yes, it's with the fiscal year 2014-15, monies came available.
Does the grant committee want to look at this again? It's the same one as last year?
Just a quick review, just so we have a good,
Okay.
a report on it, so you're aware of all the details.
Okay.
Dominic, why, it's a large grant, this is the, the 25th? And it's due in 8 days. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
Why?
we got notice, I think it was the second week of September. It's,
So you
again,
could
it's
bring,
out of my
The way they do
hands.
So you
I know
bring
it
it
is,
the
but
second
why
week
don't
of
why don't
September.
the Sheriff's Association, the 10 of you, get together and whoever puts this grant out and say, hey, look, we need more than 14 days to decide whether we're gonna do this.
Yeah, this is from the feds to the state. Has nothing to do with the 10 sheriffs,
I've signed it already, but I want to bring it here today.
because it's not just the 10 sheriffs that can apply for it, it's anyone in the state. And again, it's for, they're concerned more with regional purposes than individual purposes, so local towns probably are not gonna get a piece of it, or very little. They're more concerned with regional, which is what we would be asking for with the fire departments.
David, I'm not gonna sign this until.
No, I didn't.
Will you
no,
sign
you
it?
keep it for next week.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
I signed it, but
Yeah.
I said it needs
I'm
to
gonna
be
wait and
brought
see
here
what
today.
the committee
Ed?
says about it.
What I've discovered about grants, especially from the feds, a lot of times the sheriff will find out at the last minute how much money is available. So the time that you have to apply for it is very short. At first, I used to think that people purposely waited to the last minute, but that's not the fact. So the feds don't really know how much they're going to be able to disperse. That's why it's a very short time frame.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the
Hopefully
clarification.
you'll look at that fairly quickly so we can get it in, and you can take action on it next week.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Yep.
What else you got? Anything else?
No, I guess my 2 cents on the bids, if there's a deadline, there's a deadline, I think, for whatever reason. If they
What
didn't
bid
get
you
them in
talking about?
on the jail bids.
Oh, on a jail
Just,
bid?
Well,
We don't
I
think
was gonna
any,
say we didn't get a bid.
Nobody bid on it.
The first time around, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if it's the first time around, it's a bid, and you get 3 bids or 2 bids, yeah.
no problem.
But-
Didn't get any.
So we're
Okay,
fishing.
thank you for the
Okay.
input.
And the dog, the Charlie, the canine, is going for a certification on October 1st, I believe it is.
Did your dog,
So the training's all done.
did your dog find that individual that had left?
No.
I thought you were
No, that
involved
was,
in it.
we were involved, but that was the Ossipee dog, I believe, that
Okay,
helped with that. The sneakers, I think you were talking about.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I would suggest again to you, Sheriff, that personal files from the Sheriff's Department should go to HR. No problem with you keeping a copy, but under the matrix performance evaluation, the audit, they said all personal files should be in the HR department, so.
Yeah, no, we're working with her. I mean, it's a recommendation by them,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there are some we'll keep, but we will also.
No problem
provide
having a
some.
second copy.
But there are some that don't need to be in that, as far as the.
For what reason?
Yeah, can you tell us why?
As far as the intensive background checks in law enforcement, I talked to other sheriffs.
Yeah,
None of the other sheriffs provide the full records to HR.
Why?
Because they have to be under lock and key for one.
Well, they are
And
here.
Their background checks, as far as what we do, doesn't really need to be out there. as
we do
far as
background checks on other people.
But not as intense as
No.
we do.
No, I think this is law enforcement. I think it should stay separate. I think law enforcement should keep their own file. And certain items should go to HR, just regular general items.
Yeah.
County attorney office should keep their own files too. And certain items go to HR. I don't think that everything should go.
I mean, they'll have the basic job application that the county is now doing countywide.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff can
And
go
then we
to
do a
HR.
secondary application with an intensive background,
Mhm.
so. and
Okay.
then disciplinary actions and all that we keep. And I did check with all the sheriffs, and
And
they do the same
that's true for
things.
the dispatch center as well?
Yes, yes. at this point.
Okay, I think
No, I have a comment.
maybe the board
They are their-
will
but
discuss
they-
it later.
I have a comment. They are their own elected officials, right? I think that the files from the department heads who we appointed, I think HR have more say over that. I think they run their own department still. They are elected.
You know, if it goes to court, it comes back to the commissioners,
Yeah,
no matter
but-
how you figure it.
But the general stuff is there, it's by HR. And if it goes to court, and then they will come in and bring their file. Because they are involved, they know exactly what is going on, those elected officials. So they can come and then they present it.
Okay, thank you.
I'm working with her on that.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, leads us to the next item, which is looking at the HR section of the audit. This is a work session.
What do you need?
I was just saying the notes on the top of your plate, all these notes.
Before we get into that, did anybody have a chance to look over the response from Howie to the state regarding the survey that was done?
I didn't get any response. How did he give the response? Did he
We got a
send the email?
response. We got his response, it was here
Oh, where?
last week.
Last week he gave it to us.
Oh, he gave it to us.
Yep. Well, check,
Yeah, we were able to check this.
that's the one I've been looking for.
Oh. Bankrupt the guy?
Glad I found that before lunch.
Bankrupt.
I will say on Monday, before we get to the matrix, that as chairman of the awards committee, we have one member of our staff that will be receiving an award for the employee of the nursing home. It will go to Al Poulin. He's one of our maintenance people. We changed the procedure around at the state level to make it so that the award that is given out is more meaningful when only one receives it versus 4 or 5 that would receive it in one category. With the exception of nursing home, because the nursing home has so many people involved in it that the committee felt that if a person was nominated from a county, that county would receive that award, one per county. Where all the other categories is strictly one person that would receive the award. And in this case, there were 2 people nominated from the nursing home, and the committee voted for Al Poulin to receive it this year in October at our annual meeting.
So, is that a surprise?
Excuse me?
Is that a surprise?
Well,
Yeah, I thought that it was a
That was the way
secret.
doesn't have,
I was
what's
trying to
that?
figure out how
I
to
thought it
phrase that
was
question.
secret, and
Mhm.
that, I thought it was a secret that if we're going,
Oh,
that we're going to the meeting,
we
and
need
then
to,
we call the names, and then the person gets that.
yeah, you know, when the person is notified, they automatically know that they're gonna receive it.
No, sometimes not, because the
well-
notification doesn't say you get an award.
Normally, maintenance people don't go to the annual
You
meeting,
get just invited.
anyway. Okay,
Is Lynette
So
making
we're
the
looking
presentation
at-
on the matrix?
yeah,
thing,
Lynette,
or-
you've got some information
So
on
what page are we
the
looking
matrix
at?
for HR. Have you had a chance to do any of that work?
Well, I didn't know if you wanted a formal written response, which
We
was-
want to talk about it and discuss it and see what we should do about it.
And that's what I was wondering if you wanted to do that today.
Yes,
Talk
please.
about that today?
Okay. This would be on page 12 of the report.
David, could we recess for 5 minutes? My
Yep.
matrix thing is out in my car.
Okay. We'll have a 5-minute recess.
Is this the draft, or is this the, what do I have here? Or is this, because he had a new one, right?
Yep. This
Did-
is what
did they
the
give us-
line should be on the new one.
Oh,
Well, you can share mine, David.
What's that?
You can share mine.
I've got it. I'm all set.
If we go by the chart that begins on page 5, it is just the summary of recommendations, whereas you were looking on page 11, 12, it was more a written response to them. But basically, 2.1 indicates that the HR department should continue with the standardization of all files, and it talks a lot about the personnel files, and that is something we have been working on for the entire year and a few months that I've been here, and we're probably about 90% done in revamping many of the files and kind of the process in which things are done. So that has been ongoing, and I hopefully within the next month or two, we'll have all of the files up to where they should be. One of the things that it talks about are, separating different documentation, medical files. So we have separate medical files now, and the few that we have left, we pull all that medical information out and just inappropriate things, and that's all listed in there.
So percentage-wise, you say 90?
We're about 90% done.
90% done?
Yeah, still
Okay.
revamping a few little pieces here and there. 2.2, once all files currently in Human Resources Department conform to the same set of standards, centralize the personnel files, which I know that you have talked to Jason, I know you've talked to the sheriff
Yep.
just a few minutes ago. And we're working with the departments on that. I know you're going to send a letter to.
Yeah, I'd like a little discussion from the board. I would propose that we send a letter to the sheriff's department as well as the county attorney's office, saying that all personnel files should be held in the HR office. Do we have a discussion on that item?
Well, I think we heard what the sheriff thought.
I think what we should do is send a letter with a copy to the chairman of the delegation showing what we have done. And if for some reason the sheriff or the county attorney doesn't want to do that, then that's up to them. We've done our part of it.
just want to make a comment. The chairman of the delegation, or a delegation, has nothing to do with files, who is holding files. That is not an issue for the delegation.
Oh, I agree. All I'm telling them is what we have done.
Keeping
That's
them
what they're
aware
looking
of
for.
what we're doing.
That's what they're looking for, I believe.
And I just want to give my comment, my opinion, I think like certain items, general stuff should be by the HR, so we have the files there. But I don't think that a county attorney office, nor the sheriff's department, should give all and the whole version of files to HR. They are their own elected officials, they are their own department, and certain stuff only should go to HR.
But if you read and understood the matrix report,
I read it
it
and I
says that
understand that.
when somebody wants to look for a file, they go to HR. They don't have to go all over campus
That's
to
why.
find out what's in a person's
Yes,
personal file.
absolutely, that's why they go in there and general items are there, right? If there's something coming up, we always have the sheriff coming or the county attorney coming.
Do we need a motion on this, or we're gonna come to an agreement?
I agree, we sent a letter. And I can't understand why the sheriff or the county attorney would think that whatever they have is more significant than what any other employee has in here, and it should be all be in one place as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, law enforcement is different, and the county attorney office dealing with they are all attorneys.
The only thing different in the sheriff's department is we have no say as far as their law enforcement capabilities. Everything else falls under us. Why do we talk about a union contract with the sheriff's department if that's the elected official's job? It's our job as commissioners.
And all of the employees in those departments are employees of the county.
Of the county.
Elected official is just that, the elected official, but all the employees are employees of the county.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that is
but-
why their records should be centralized. And the sheriff and I have talked, and we are working towards getting what is needed in HR as well as what is needed for the law enforcement piece and the background checks. And the county attorney's office, if that letter went to the county attorney's office, that would hopefully move that into the correct direction.
I just want to add on that the sheriff has authority over everything what is deputized. So he has the authority over all his deputies.
Only law enforcement.
Over all his deputies.
That was the court case. Okay, I will write a letter, and whoever wants to sign it can sign it. If you care not to sign it, that's up to you.
Number
Okay.
2.3 says that HR department should formally review each job description and ensure compliance. And again, most all of these items that were listed were identified to Robin, I forget his last name, Robin from Matrix, when we met with Matrix. And these were the things that I had identified as what we are working on. So the job description, working with those and keeping them in compliance, absolutely, we need to do that. When we have revised job descriptions, or when we revise a job, we do
Update it.
that. Yep, we update it. And one of the things that my recommendation would be to all of the departments is when they do their performance evaluations every couple of years, they should look at those job descriptions and make sure that they are updated and work collaboratively with HR in updating them. I know a lot of them have been around since the beginning of HR here in 2008, so yes, they are in need. They're pretty compatible to what they do, but there are more components that need to be added, especially with ADA language. And the pieces of the physical components of what they need to do are very important, so for the ADA piece, but also for our workers' comp. Because when we bring someone back on light duty, according to the workers' comp laws, we need to be able to have specifically what their responsibilities are, physical responsibilities are. So we have been working on those, and like I said, when we have new or a revised job description, those are included in them. So that's
Could you
ongoing.
say as to how many reviews you could do a year? Could you do 5%, 10%?
And thinking about the job descriptions, I mean, we have many
I know when
LNAs,
you-
so that's,
yeah.
one LNA job description is going to fit many. So I would say we could look at probably 25% of them of the overall job descriptions each year moving forward. And any new or revised would be included in that percentage. And that is an ongoing process, so
Yes.
that will be done every, probably every 2 to 3 years on a rotating cycle.
Okay.
2.3, the county should adopt a policy of routine review and updating of job descriptions. Well, and I think that's the same thing. 2.4,
Okay.
the county should develop formal classification and compensation for its non-union employees. This plan should ensure both internal and external equity. Should be ideally performed by an outside vendor in order to eliminate any perception of bias in this process. The cost of a classification and compensation plan can vary upon the firm used. However, it is estimated that such plan for Carroll County would cost approximately $15,000. I would wholeheartedly agree with having an outside vendor do this to help with that perception and make sure that it is done without any perception of bias. And there are vendors in New Hampshire and throughout that do this. And I would, because this is a high priority by matrix, I would hope that I would be able to put that into my budget proposal for this year, and that would be accepted by the delegation and above and beyond my normal operating budget.
So it would be up to,
The delegation to pass that.
yeah, but up to 15,000.
And I could get some quotes from those people. I know that there's MRI and a few others that do that type of
Okay.
compensation plan, so
David?
I could get some
Go ahead.
prices.
Does this mean the delegation's compensation committee is a bust, or what? They didn't do their job, or we haven't got any information back from them? I know they've met 2 or 3 times, and as far as I know, they haven't gotten anywhere. Representative Cardelli knows? David?
I don't know.
Is he on the?
Representative, are you on that committee, compensation committee?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anything been done?
As the commissioner stated, we've had several meetings. There is no outcome. I think that the last attempted meeting that we had, there were some posting difficulties, so we did not meet. And as far as I know, we're waiting to reschedule that.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
2.5, the HR department should begin conducting exit interviews. We have been doing exit interviews all along. Do we do every single person that leaves? No. We send them a letter if we don't get to do an in-person exit interview. So I do have several, and what I will be doing is gathering all that information for an annual report on the exit interviews that we do have. So that is being done.
David?
Go ahead.
I also had that one highlighted as, I don't see where they got should begin. We've been doing it all along. My question is, why do they have a low priority on that? I would think that would be a high priority. We may not be able to get every single one, but we ought to be trying. Every single person that leaves here, we ought to make an effort to get an exit.
Right, which we do.
I would have
And-
said that would be a high priority.
Okay.
Yeah, which goes along with 2.5, which is that the findings be in an annual report. I have also a turnover chart that I will hopefully be able to present with the turnover rates and then some of the exit interview information to kind of give a comprehensive look at, why people are leaving. 2.6, the HR department should begin the development of policies and procedures that cover all pertinent details of county employment and policy. This effort should be completed within 12 to 18 months. The the personnel policy reference guide is a living document that should be looked at all times. And will it ever be completed totally? No.
It's an ongoing.
It's an ongoing process. And we have been looking at some of those. I actually have some more that need to be put into the manual, And then I believe, even before I got here, it was presented that copying costs be incorporated into the budget to make copies for those and to be able to distribute them to all of the employees.
Yeah.
All of the employees that get hired now, since I've been here, get a copy of the personnel policy, the reference guide, and we go through it very briefly. We cover some very important high points in there, and they sign off on that. But as this says, we should be kind of reviewing more pertinent details that we will be and will continue to look at that.
Well, go ahead.
I had that 2.6 also highlighted. We've been doing policies for the 2 years I've been here.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe, did they just take a template and fill it in, or how could they not know that we haven't been working on policies? Should begin. That means we haven't been doing it as far as I'm concerned.
And we absolutely have
And we
been doing
absolutely
that.
have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've put in front of you.
I think the point is, if we have the policies, how is that delivered to our employees? That's where we're weak. We get the new employees, but what about the old employees?
Right, and to be able to update anything. I've had some ideas of how we can do that. One of the typical forms of communication and delivery of those things would be through email with the response that they've received it and they will read it, and that sometimes you can use as your signature, especially when you have 24/7 and you have so many employees and so many different facilities. But one of the things that we run up against with the IT committee that we are very aware of is that we need to have that fiber optic connecting all of the buildings so that we all have the ability to communicate, which would be huge for the county in the communication aspect of things. And if at some point, hopefully with the request for quote that is being prepared now for the fiber optics, again, hopefully the delegation will look at that and approve it. Even when it comes to the dock star, last year when they turned down the whole dock star and that whole, the storage, that was because we don't have the fiber optics. We're not all connected and we're not all able to utilize something like that. I think a little further in this report, it talks about having an HRIS system, which is also very important to have for that ability to pull all that information together from all of the different facilities, departments.
I think the question came up as to how we're going to put these policies together and print them and give them to everybody. We talked about the cost involved, and I don't remember what happened. Debbie, I think, came in with a proposal on it, and we didn't, either didn't take action or turned it down because we thought it was too expensive.
Yep.
So we need to come up with a method of putting these policies together in a booklet form of some type and giving it to our employee and have them sign off on it. The question then comes up is when we update it, we have to keep a list so that that update can be sent to all those people and added to the policy manual, right?
And in places that I have been before, what we have done is when you are issued your personnel policy, you are made aware that there will be additional policies and that what has happened before is in the actual personnel file, you would have the sign off from each person that they were given the new policy. The updated, they're told to put that in their personnel policy that they have, which is why printing of them, I know that Commissioner Babson, I believe at one point said, they should be on a CD or whatever, but having that document in hand so that the employee gets a copy of it and signs off on it. And when they're given an update, they sign off that they've received that update and they're responsible for including it into their personnel reference guide, employee manual, whatever you want to call it. And then when the person terminates and leaves employment, as a condition of their employment, it should also be made known to the employees that they need to return that when they leave. And that's why you provide them with a substantial employment guide.
Yeah.
And what we do now, we have something that's, I guess, fairly substantial, and we give that to them, and I have started to communicate to the new employees that when they terminate their employment with the county, that will be asked for back.
Okay.
It's just kind of a way to kind of recoup a little bit of it, but that they're responsible for including any new information into their reference guide.
I guess I would ask the HR department to come in with a proposal as to how we're gonna do that, if we're gonna copy it off, what's it gonna cost if we put it in a booklet form or a loose leaf form or whatever, so that we put it in our budget for next year.
Okay, so 2.7, the county should purchase and implement a HRIS system, which is what I was alluding to. There are so many things that we do by hand: Excel spreadsheet, pull reports from finance, tweak them to fit. It's very time consuming and it's not very efficient. And I think that's one of the things that they had recommended that 25,000 be put in the budget for that. And again, I would put that in my budget, and possibly the delegation might take the recommendation from the audit and approve that.
Okay.
2.8, enhance the new employee orientation to include a broader description of the employee's role as a county employee in addition to his or her role within their specific departments. Well, again, this is already done in the hiring session and in the orientation session that we do, the hiring session. When they go to their specific departments, that orientation session will give them much more specifics to their roles. So I will work with the departments as to their orientation process. For example, I know Patty Kane does an orientation process 1 Monday or 2 Mondays a month with all of the new employees, and I know she has a very, I should say, comprehensive orientation session with them, as well as corrections. And then it's the other departments that we don't have a huge amount of new hires, but to be able to have good communication as to their orientation process too. Okay. So that will be ongoing, and we'll work on that. 2.9, the county should develop and implement core training courses for all employees and should also develop a required training curriculum for all supervisors. Again, this will end up being a budgetary item because I think that's been my frustration for my first year here, is trying to coordinate training. They don't have any overtime in their budget, and most of the departments would require overtime in order to have this training be completed, because they're all, most all of the employees are designated to do their job for that specific time frame. So trying to incorporate some core training for the curriculum for the supervisors has been a little challenging in coming up with a plan on how to do that with the department heads, but because this is now identified by the performance audit, maybe that's something that I can bring to the facility administrators meeting and come up with some of those core trainings, but also a plan as to how to budget for this.
Should anything be said in the union contracts regarding training?
No, I believe training is a management right, and I don't think that should be something that is in a union contract. That should be by the authority of the commissioners to the department heads. I really don't think it needs to be in
I think it's in the sheriff's department, though.
And they have some required trainings that they must do, which is contractual, and that's fine. But for the overall big picture of supervisor training, and coming up with some org charts and having that very specifically laid out for the supervisors. It is important. And we utilize Primex for some of that, and some other organizations.
Okay.
So that's an ongoing, and I think the piece prior in here, getting that information and having it for the personnel files so that we can have good tracking, that would be something that would go in the HRIS system to have good tracking for, who needs what and who's where, so.
Yeah, okay.
2.10, and it says performance evaluation program, certain refinements that the county should consider during this implementation phase. We've started with the performance evaluation program, and yes, there are some tweaks that need to be done, but we needed to start somewhere, and that in collaboration with the department heads and the facility administrators, we're working on that one.
You are notifying them
Yep,
when people are due for their
evaluations,
annual evaluation.
and trying to keep track of who I get back and who's still outstanding. Uh, 2.11, develop and implement a standard policy on procedure on hiring practices. Absolutely, and I am in the process of developing that, as to even with regards to the departments, them requisitioning a position, having that position be in their budget, which is why org charts are really important to lay out all those positions. But I will have some draft procedures for you within the upcoming months. And that has been high on my priority list also for
Okay.
a while. 2.12, implement a formal training policy outlining the annual training requirements for various positions. Yeah, and that would be an ongoing with the departments. And that one sounds a lot easier than it actually will
So
be.
what's the difference between 2.12 and 2.9?
That's for the supervisors, and this is for all various positions.
Okay,
So,
okay.
yeah.
So you're gonna work with department?
Yeah. And that sounds like it should be simple, but it's really not that simple.
Yeah.
Why is there no cost attached to that? I can see there'd be no cost for training a lower level employee, but supervisors, you have to bring in somebody with experience. There ought to be a cost attached to
And
that.
there absolutely would be, and in the budget process, having that cost, having training built into the cost line, the personnel cost lines, because like I said before, it's most likely going to be, many occasions, it's gonna end up being overtime because of the specific positions. But I think working with the department heads and coming up with some of those trainings, whether we send someone to, a supervisor's academy, or we have someone come in and do training, which we do have those abilities to have people come in and do the training also for those groups. So that's something.
Well, I don't know what they call it now, the Granite State College,
Mhm.
they offer, or the Economic Council, I think they offer courses that have a small fee involved, that if the department has money in their training, they should be able to use that. As long as the record is kept as to what they
What they've done.
participate in.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is important that good communication, so that I know if someone has gone to a supervisor's academy, because often when we get notifications about specific trainings or something that I think would be very good for, employee X to go to, we send those along to the department heads, and they probably get some notifications.
You just
from-
sent one out. I had it on my email anyway.
And the state of New Hampshire also does some trainings, and they are much more related to public sector.
Mhm.
And there's a wide variety. I think maybe that was the one that I had sent you recently, because the state
There was a
training.
cost involved, I know that.
But they're really minimal costs.
$130 or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, some of those are very minimal in comparison to what they are receiving. So those types of trainings and communicating that, but also maybe looking at having a session held here. So those are all all absolutely
Does
workable.
Primex have a schedule of training?
They put out a calendar each year of some set trainings, but then they throw other ones in there as they go along when they determine the needs of the members, and they will schedule those kind of sporadically. But we get notification of those, and those, for instance, are the ones that I would typically send out to the departments.
Another group, I don't know the correct title, but they're up in North Conway. It's run by Mrs. Clark. And they're mostly involved in development, community development and so forth. But they put on classes in all different categories, so that might be another place to check. I can't think of the name, but I'm sure through the Chamber of Commerce up there, we can get a hold of that group. 'Cause I know they put on classes all over on different subjects.
Maybe I can get together with you and find out who that.
All I
that
can remember
is.
is, her name is Clark, and they live in actually in Lower Bartlett.
And the last one, 2.12, Carroll County should implement a standard and formalized supervisory training program for all supervisors that includes a core set of classes and is supplemented annually with topical items.
That's a new one that was added.
And I think in their descriptor pages, an annual allotment of 8 hours covering basic supervisory practices supplemented by refresher training on sexual harassment, diversity, equal employment practices. Job-specific training should continue to be provided by the operating department, but tracked and monitored in the Human Resources Department in a centralized system. Just as important, if not more, it is the development of a comprehensive supervisory training program for all supervisors. Core training sessions for all supervisors, and that definitely we can work on with the department heads and what some of those things are that should be annual required trainings. But again, many of these things were identified to Matrix as to what we either are working on or see as definite vision for the future.
Okay. Anybody got any member of the board got any questions regarding?
I have just one. Overall, I think they did an excellent job. I'm just wondering, how did they set their priority level? Did they get together and decide this is a high priority or low priority, or did they have some statistical evidence, or? The only complaint I'd have on some of these is that priority to me is
Probably
not their
objective, and it's
priority.
probably based on what they felt was the most important.
Must have had some measure, though.
Well, they know we've had problems with the hiring practice, so they set that as a high one.
Well, as I said before, the exit interview, a low priority. I would have, to me, that
It's an
would have been
important one
that would have
to
been
us.
a high one priority to us.
Yeah.
And I thought it was kind of interesting, towards the end, they have those other performance target strengths and potential improvements. And there was one that the target, there are approximately 90 to 100 full-time municipal employees for every one full-time HR employee, and that's kind of the standard, the
I saw
industry
that.
standard.
Yeah.
And we're up to about 350 employees, so that makes 175 to 1.
You need another person in your department according to that.
Yeah, and then they said that they recommended at this point we were, sufficiently staffed, and
Yeah,
there's definitely
documentation doesn't show that.
Yeah, there's definitely not enough time to get to all of these things, which absolutely, in a perfect world, it would be wonderful to be able to, not have interruptions and to be able to get these things done. But in the real world, there's a lot of things that we deal with day in and day out, and
Under applications and resumes, that goes through the website, doesn't it?
we have the application on the website, and when we put ads out, we go to Jobs in NH, one of the job websites that we use.
Mhm.
They send in their resume. I then reply and thank them for getting their resume, but I also send them our application, which is a required part of our process.
Mhm.
And they either scan it in and send it, or they pop in the mail, or they drop it off. So we're not as
Automated.
technology, as some. There's one applicant process that's called NeoGov, and an employee, a potential candidate could go online and fill in all of that. But sometimes I don't think you get a really good depiction of a person until you actually get in hand their written, maybe typed resume,
Mhm.
application that has all of the things that we require them to answer. I don't like it when somebody sends the county application in and they put on it, see resume. Well, because it says specifically on there, this must be completed, that resume information is supplemental. So for me, that says a lot about
Mhm.
the applicant, and following directions and things like that. And there's just, sometimes technology is great. I think we're still able to do the best we can with what we have, and we don't need a NeoGov or a applicant type system at this point yet. We do okay with having them online, posting them.
So the $25,000 cost that's here is for a system
Are you on the
to
HR?
facilitate? This
the-
is on 2.7?
The HRIS system does a lot of tracking for all kinds of things. If you have a true HRIS system, you track performance evaluations, you track applicants that you get in, you track turnover. An HRIS system is set up specifically to capture all of those human resource functions
Mhm.
where we don't have that. And like I said, we kind of makeshift things. I make an Excel spreadsheet, or I keep a document, or I just keep a folder. In a true HRIS system,
Are
there's
you-
so much that you can do to make it.
You're aware of that system then?
Oh, I've used
And you can
many
get a-
in the past.
You can get a cost
Oh, yeah. yeah,
estimate on it?
Yeah.
And would you say that would go in your budget for next year also?
I would hope so, unless it's in I don't know if that would be something the delegation would look at for next year, or they want to put it in as a capital type expense that we do half next
Yes.
year and half the next year. But it is very, very efficient. And even for, EEO tracking, and there's so many things that you use that for.
Okay. Well, I think we've made some progress today in HR. There's a lot of work to do, that's for sure.
There's a lot of work to do.
And as somebody said, not gonna get done overnight, but a lot of it is being done, and we just need to pick it up a little bit. I want to go back to 2.3. What'd you say you would do about adopting a policy, routine review, and updating job descriptions?
Oh, I
That'll be
had,
done every 3 to 5 years?
I had said we do that. We are doing that. So whenever we have a new or revised job description, for example, the director of nursing,
Yep.
You know, we have revised that job description.
Yep.
And we have to include the ADA components as well as all of those
Mhm.
physical functions that a person must be able to do the job. So that is being done.
Okay?
Yep.
All right, thank you, Lynette.
Thank you.
Regarding the financial operations, I believe the treasurer and Kathy Gary are meeting, I believe it's tomorrow. I've asked the treasurer to assist with financial policies with the finance manager. There are a lot of high areas here, and I felt probably the best way of doing that is making sure the treasurer, he's very knowledgeable about financial procedures and so forth, that he help, and he has volunteered to do that. And I believe they're meeting tomorrow. It could be Friday, but they will be meeting, and they'll probably have several meetings to go over that list of recommendations. With that said, I know I've mentioned it before, I would definitely support a chief financial officer, since our financial operations are, according to the audit, in bad shape. I would support that we budget next year for a chief financial officer, maybe part-time administrator, county administrator, but priority would be financial. I say that because Kathy Geary has been here 20-some years, is eligible for retirement. She could go tomorrow if she wanted to, and we would be in really worse shape than we are now. But by hiring a person to work in that area, that person could then very easily take over her responsibilities when she decides to retire. I don't know how other board members feel about that, but that's where I'm coming from, and it looks like the audit, performance audit, really focused in pretty much on financials. Anybody comment?
Yes. Once again, I would go with just county administrator. That is what a county means.
Okay.
I would go with a chief financial officer that is in charge of the whole department, including our current staff, and somebody with truly a financial background that can
Yeah,
get things organized and going.
and not only with our office, but with the, it fits in with the jail and also the nursing home. The nursing home probably more so than the jail, but,
I would assume in that position that ultimately he would have oversight of both of those
yeah,
facilities.
okay. Okay. Everybody satisfied with where we are, or
Yep.
do we need to do more, or whatever?
I have a question about the software, the HRIS software.
Yep.
Is that something that has to be purchased as a separate thing, or does Kronos do anything like that? Can you just purchase additional modules or change the Kronos we already have and just make it one big system?
Mhm. I had asked Kronos to give me a quote on an HRIS
Okay.
section that, and they were working on it. I don't know where it is right at the moment, but I'd asked them to do that. And I had asked Kathy before if ACS had that, and I was told no before, but now I have other information that they may have something. So even to get a quote from the software that we currently use.
Mhm.
So that's definitely what direction I'll look
Okay.
first. Okay, thank you. Is that-
David, are we going to work on this compensation thing
Yep.
today?
Yes. Should it be a non-public or public?
I don't see why. We're not going to be using any names. I can't see why it wouldn't be done in public. Establishing a policy.
Okay. I've lost mine. Okay. Okay, this deals with the interim compensation. We've talked about this for the last couple of weeks. We've got two people that are filling in positions that are required to be filled. One is with the jail and the other's in the nursing home. We've got a recommendation here from HR, and also a sort of a supportive letter from the director of the nursing home.
And this one does not identify corrections. It is specifically the case in point for the nursing home at this stage.
Right,
Mr. Chairman?
go ahead.
I hope we keep this discussion on a level of what the policy will be and not the individuals, because I would like to go in at some point in non-public session and discuss the individuals
Okay.
and their pay.
So I just want to make a comment. So we have positions that are required by law as the DON, Director of Nurses, and also the superintendent. Why is it not in the job description? For example, the superintendent, if he became unavailable or absent, or we have to look for someone else, that the second person is taking over the job till they find another one. You can just put it in a job description. Then when the second guy has it, he knows if the superintendent is not there, that is one of the things, that's his job description. He will fill it in for maybe 8 weeks or 6 weeks. And you can do the same with the DON, who comes after her. Put it in the job description that when we have no DON, the DON is maybe on medical leave for maybe 6 weeks. Or put it that the person after her fill in that position. You just put it in the job description.
So, do I understand it? Your feeling is that we shouldn't compensate anybody for filling in the next higher position that is required?
Well, I think that if it is in a job description, the person knows it's going to take over for a little while. Why is it not in it?
Would you want to define what a little while is?
Well, it can be 6 weeks, it can be 8 weeks, but like, for example, the superintendent. The second person is it called major? I don't know, they have this new ranks or captain, I don't know what a second person is. If the second person has like a job description and it is in it, and it said absent of the superintendent, if the person is on medical leave or the person resigned, that the second in charge become the acting one. That is a requirement of, it's in the job descriptions already.
That's
That
true.
we don't have to go through all this.
No, that should be in the job description, I agree with you, but what we're talking about is compensating those people for taking on that additional responsibility.
And
Each one of those people we're probably talking about now is, yes, they can take over that job.
Because they already get their pay, right? So even if they are the second one, they get their regular pay.
They get their regular pay.
Right, so they get their pay.
But then why do we pay the person above them a different salary?
Because they are acting, right? The person is maybe on medical leave or assigned or is doing something else.
Okay,
It ought to be in the job description so that the individual that's in the assistant position knows that it is a requirement for the job that they will take over.
Yes.
yeah,
On
I
the other
agree.
hand, and
Yeah, and then we don't have to go through all this.
But I don't think we're talking about, I think that's understood.
I know,
I
I hadn't
think-
finished.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Not
sorry.
always.
I don't think it makes any common sense at all that you don't, in a position that's required by law, that you don't pay that assistant 1 day, 2 days, maybe not, but an extended period of time, and they're filling in, they may not even end up as the superintendent when it, or the head nurse or whatever at the end of the trial period. But during that period, when they're doing the job of the number one, they ought to be paid that way. Maybe not for a couple of days, but if for any extended period of time, which of course opens up a kettle of fish when you try to figure out what an extended period of time is.
Okay, people take vacation time. So during a vacation time, that may only be a week, maybe 2 weeks, they should be able to fill in without compensation.
Agreed.
Correct.
Agreed?
Agreed.
So would you say that the time
It
period?
may be true, Dave, of the 12 sick days.
Okay, yeah. So,
I think you're on the right track.
so for,
May
go
may
ahead, go ahead.
Typical industry standard, and this is done throughout, not the state, but the entire country. Typical industry standard is that, yes, if you are the assistant, you don't get paid for covering for someone's vacation. However, if there is for example, an extended medical leave or a
Termination.
and there's no one in that position, and it's specifically, it's you are the interim at that point, as you said, whether they get promoted or not, that's not the question. If it is a position that needs to be filled and that person is doing that job, they should be compensated for doing the job of that person that they are being interim for. Absolutely not. I don't think anyone expects to be paid for 2 weeks of vacation or something like that. That is not it at all.
Mhm.
I think when it is specifically an interim position, that's when this comes into play. Not just here in Carroll County, but anywhere.
Yeah.
It does happen. In your job description, are you expected to take over for in that person's absence for that vacation, for that sick day? Absolutely. But when it comes to being an actual interim position, because of a vacancy or someone not going to be there for a significant amount of time, that's what, we're looking at.
Mhm.
And to compensate those people for doing that. And most of the time, they're not just doing that job of the position that they had taken the place of. Most of the time, they're doing 2 jobs. They're doing their job and the other person's job. So compensation would be a normal course of action.
How would you handle family medical leave? That's
And-
12 weeks, right?
And that would be the same thing. If somebody's going to be on an extended leave, that 2-week time frame you really wouldn't cover if they were that 2 weeks, but anything beyond that. And I think, that's what we need to determine as our policy going forward when significant changes in duties occur on a temporary basis, which may be no less than 4, no more than 12 months, that's what we have to determine how our policy is going to read, that anything more than 2 weeks, the commissioners will need to consider compensating that time, depending upon, specific situations. And I think some of that language you can leave a little bit vague, but when it is a vacancy and they're going to be doing those two jobs, the jobs of 2 people, I think that's not a question. They're doing 2 jobs and they need to be compensated.
Either you two have any comments on that?
Well, I
See-
would think the policy would say something to, We don't want to get in a situation where the head person may go out, have vacation for 2 weeks, and there's somebody that's been here for 10 years gets 4 weeks or whatever. We have to put in our policy that
Vacate. Oh.
the superior's vacation time doesn't get paid. He doesn't get paid, the superintendent or the number one's pay, as long as it's the number one's vacation time, and that would take care of any variance in the amount of time for vacation.
So no compensation would be given for vacation time or sick leave?
I guess.
Oh, and I think you'd be careful with sick leave, because what if it was an extended 12-week FMLA and they were out for 12 weeks, and that person is doing those two jobs? And I think maybe, the language about vacations, because typically people don't, or aren't approved to do more than 2 weeks unless
time.
extenuating circumstances.
Yeah.
But when it comes to medical leave, there may be times when somebody is going to be more than 2 weeks, and maybe that's kind of the guideline that you want to use, is more than 2 weeks for sick leave, but vacations would not be, you would not be compensated at an interim rate for vacation purposes.
Okay, to play the devil's advocate, why not sick days and family medical leave as two separate? Because you go out on sick leave, that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna take family medical leave. Correct?
Well, I can only take so many days of sick leave.
Sick leave, and more than
That's what
3
I mean,
days, you
so
need to
the-
have a doctor's note,
Right.
and then we would start the FMLA process if they were qualified. Typically, if somebody's gonna be out for that amount of time, it's going to be a qualified sick leave, a qualified FMLA, so.
So I would think at the time goes from sick leave to family medical leave, then the increase in pay would kick in at that point.
Upon approval of family medical leave. And if you wanted to even add after a 2-week period, a 2-week waiting period or something like that, we could incorporate that language into it to cover those.
So we got vacation time.
We've got sick leave and medical leave, or
Now, how are we gonna do the sick leave and medical leave?
I would suggest at the point it becomes medical leave, then it,
Or family
medical
medical.
leave, then the increase in pay would kick in.
Right from the start?
From the start of medical leave, yes. Which means the person probably used up all of their sick days, or,
No, it runs concurrent. That runs concurrent.
oh yeah, that's right.
So for
FMLA.
FMLA?
Yeah.
I got the
Family Medical Leave
Okay.
Act, yeah.
family medical leave, okay.
I know it does on the FMLA when that, but I was thinking you might have somebody that has 12 sick days and uses up 10 and says, this isn't working, I now have to go out for FMLA. I would think that those sick days would be not paid and FMLA would be.
Would kick in. Well, no, FMLA does not have to be paid. You do not have to pay FMLA.
Oh, I know that.
Right.
But most people will use up their sick days or collect their pay or vacation time and get in
Before?
in lieu of losing their pay for that, because we don't have to pay them, so they take their vacation money.
And in our FMLA policies, it indicates that you need to use up all of your accrued time. So
Right.
we could look at
Also,
policies,
yeah.
but I think if you kind of gauge it towards that 2-week time frame. If somebody requests an FMLA because they know that they're injured and it starts at 3 days out, because technically, if somebody's injured, they could request FMLA on their third day. They
Mhm.
could request that. So I think we should take a look at some language that encompasses that 2-week time frame, which would be similar to a vacation of a person filling in. I mean, if you want to be kind of, I guess, cautious when paying that interim rate. And, well, why don't we come up with some language and work on this
Some more?
policy? But if that's the kind of the guidance that you're looking
Okay, so for
at,
vacation time, there's no compensation for that person filling in, right?
right,
For vacation
For
time,
vacation
whether it's
time,
1
yep.
week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
or an approved 3
whatever.
weeks. Right, vacation does not get compensated
Okay.
at an interim rate.
Now, how do you want to handle FMLA?
My suggestion was when that kicks in, the individual begins to get the increase.
And I'll play the devil's advocate, because if they can get FMLA, they've been out for a few days, they ask for FMLA, they're only out for a week, so that person's technically only covered the leave of the superintendent or director of nursing. They've only covered for 10 days.
Good point,
You're
so
not-
why don't we make it paid the increase after 2 or 3 weeks of FMLA? Or from the beginning of the FMLA?
Yeah, and the only other word of caution is, what if for example, director of nursing doesn't qualify for FMLA yet, because you have to be here a year and there are qualifications you have to meet. So what if that person isn't on FMLA? So you might want to consider including sick leave and FMLA as the same type of language.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Kind of, if the purpose of the policy is to fairly compensate the person who's covering that job on an interim basis, this seems really focused on the person who's gone instead of the person who's supposed to be compensated in the way that it's being discussed.
We should be looking at the person.
We're
who's-
getting caught up in, I'm
Yeah.
not getting caught up in anything. We're looking at why they're gone. The fact is they're gone.
Yeah,
And someone else is doing their job.
yeah.
Wouldn't it be a lot cleaner to say, for any reason, if you cover a job of more responsibility, those 3 positions, for a period of longer than 2 weeks, you're going to be compensated? And forget all of the reasons why because when it boils down to it, the person's gone, whether they're on a 6-week
True.
adventure to Italy or they're laid up for 12 weeks because they just had surgery. It doesn't matter. That person's still stuck here doing that job,
Yeah.
plus their own, and should be fairly compensated.
And so what happens if the individual has 4 weeks vacation?
But they still left somebody
Vacation.
here to do their job while they went on vacation. That person that got left here should be fairly compensated for those additional responsibilities.
I disagree
Whether it's
with
a
you
2-week
if
period
they're,
or a year.
I disagree with you if they're,
That's
that's
okay. I
part
just
of
wanted to give
being-
my opinion.
Well, I appreciate it. And
Okay.
my feeling is that if part of being the assistant is that you fill in at any short duration that might arise.
And part of being an effective administrator is making sure that those assistants don't get burned out.
Well, that's true.
But it's on a temporary basis. I mean, it's not that they're going to do it for years, right? So,
So the only thing that's fairly clear is that if anybody's on vacation, and they're filling in for this person, they're not gonna get compensated. That's correct,
Correct.
right?
Mhm.
We understand
That's
that.
what I
Now, what are the other circumstances whereby they would be out?
Medical leave of absence, which could be FMLA, sick leave, or whatever kind of leave. And then actually, if somebody was in the military, you'd have to also compensate them if their supervisor was in the military and was gone for a significant period of time.
And how about administrative leave?
Well, getting back to her point, Melissa's point, with the exception of vacation time, no compensation will be paid, but that being the exception, if anybody is out for over 2 weeks in any other category, after that 2-week period of time, then they get compensated.
And you have to remember, this needs to be submitted by the facility administrator or the commissioners, so this needs to be approved anyway, so there needs to be good reasoning, documentation. But according to the policy, as you're kind of alluding to, anything more than 2 weeks, not including vacation,
Right.
would be considered for interim pay
Right.
in those mandated positions. And
Right.
I think it could be really pretty simple, because it doesn't matter why they're gone for more than 2 weeks, other than vacation, because if they're gonna be gone for more than 2 weeks, that would be your determination, the board's determination as to.
Do we have a policy on interim positions?
The only motion that was made by the board, I don't think there's actually a policy. I don't believe there's actually a
Because
policy.
that would solve part of the problem, too.
So David, your suggestion would be anything over 2 weeks would,
With the exception
Not
of,
including
would
vacation.
activate the increase
Yeah.
in pay for the,
with the exception of vacation time.
Mhm.
They would not get paid for vacation time. Anything over 2 weeks, filling in as an interim, they would get compensation.
that may be the easiest way to go. And this would just be for those positions required by law.
Required by law.
No, that's not.
I mean, they
bad.
could refuse. I mean, there was nobody set up to be the DON. But anyway,
No, I think you might have that might be the very simplest solution.
okay.
We'll
You
draft-
want to
we'll
put together
draft-
some wording on that?
Yeah, we'll draft something up.
No compensation for vacation time,
Mhm.
but in any other category, when they're over 2 weeks of absence, then the interim would be compensated.
Mhm.
All right?
Yep.
Okay.
Compensated at the superior's rate.
Excuse me?
Compensated at the superior's rate.
Okay. All right.
You have 3 positions, the DON, then the county, the nursing home administrator, and the jail superintendent. Those are the 3 that are
As far as
required
we
by
know.
law.
Yeah.
So what happens in the case of the sheriff or the register of deeds?
He's elected official.
So it doesn't?
Delegation reappoints somebody.
Okay. And in that interim, when a county employee steps up and does
And
their
in
job,
fact,
it doesn't count?
elected official, we don't have any say as to their salary. That's all
Or
set
what
by the
happens in their
delegation.
department.
It's all set by the delegation, so.
Okay.
Yep.
I was just wondering, because the people that are left behind are county employees, they're not elected officials, and they'll be also assuming the responsibilities of those jobs if the person leaves.
Maybe we ought to have in there the exception also being elected officials. Because we have no say in elected officials. Agree?
Not sure.
You're not sure?
Well, and I think that was the whole
Because-
intent, because then you start getting down to other departments, and then you're right back to the very beginning of should a person taking over the role for a significant period of time, and I'll use the HR generalist acting as HR generalist and a department head filling in for that role. I mean, you're right back to the.
But we're not required to have an HR.
Right, and we're not
director.
required to fill the position of sheriff, and not required to fill the position of county attorney. Everybody would just pick up the pieces and get the job done, because you're not going to, unless they needed, if there was a true
Maybe we shouldn't
vacancy.
We shouldn't even be involved with elected officials. Delegation takes
No.
care of that.
Right, and I think
So-
we need to just hammer out this one for right now,
Yep.
for those positions.
Okay.
The others will be looked at on a one-by-one case basis.
Okay. You work that up, and we need to move this along. We've been talking about this now for 3 weeks, which isn't bad. I don't think we ought to jump to any fast, quick conclusions, but let's see if we can't get this done within the next week or two. Okay?
But are you going to talk in non-public about the proposed compensation for the nursing home?
I would like to.
Okay.
We can talk about it, but I think it is better if we have a policy in place. So we just follow the policy.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Okay, moving along, we got anything else to bring up on the work session?
No?
All I'll say is we have met with the 3 unions. 2 of them have given us proposals. The jail and the nursing home have given us proposals, and we will get the proposal from the sheriff's department at a scheduled date. We have set the meetings up for the next 3 meetings, so that we should be moving fairly quickly through the process. It depends on how negotiations go, but I see us heading in the right direction, and hopefully we'll get it done. They've been informed, multiple-year contracts, and also that'll be done by the 25th of November, so they're well aware of that.
Excuse me, David, you
Yep.
said the next 3 meetings. Are you talking about the next 3 meetings?
Union meetings.
I understand that, but with all, are you talking about the next 3 meetings with each of the unions?
Yes.
Or the next 3 meetings of all the unions?
Next 3 meetings with individual unions.
Okay, so we got a timeline for,
It's all
Each
set
one
up
of them.
and agreed by attorneys that represent both parties,
okay.
that they're going to be here, so they filled in their schedules. And then unless some emergency comes up, we should be sticking with that schedule.
Good.
And those meetings will last 2 hours.
Good.
Okay? All right, enough said about unions, I guess. Anything else to be brought up under the work session?
No.
Okay, if not, then I'd ask for public input, and then we'll go into non-public for RSA 91A32C. Anything from public input? Go ahead.
I didn't know whether to speak under the work session or public input. Could someone help me work with the business office to institute the new agenda?
Okay, yep.
Thank you. And there's something else. I don't remember what it was. Never mind. That was it. Oh, the non-public minutes, the tracking form that I gave you a couple of weeks ago
Yep.
that Commissioner Kenney was going to work on. I was just wondering what the progress of that is, because I don't want to get too far behind.
Yeah, I'm going to work on today on it. I know that Cheryl been taking some notes. I didn't receive any of these notes, so I will ask her where we are, and I will fill in a form, so we have it all ready to go.
And were you going to go back to
I'm
all the
going-
ones I have listed to see if
Yeah,
any of
but
those?
I'm going to just look at it 2014, and I'm going to do all this last month and see if we have, if everything is there.
Okay, because it just took a lot of work, so I don't want too much time to go by, because then I'll get behind again and I'll have
Yeah.
to catch up, so,
You
thank
can
you.
have that for next week, possibly?
Yeah, I'm going to work on
Okay.
it.
I will not be here next week. I assume you're still going to have a meeting.
Yep.
Okay. And Commissioner Babson, you set up the agenda for the next week?
Yep.
Seems like there was something else for discussion under work, but
Is there anything on the action list that we?
I thought we have public input now. Couldn't
Yes,
you
we
say
are.
that?
Yeah, anybody for public input? Apparently not. Okay. Then I would, you want to talk about that?
No, we ought to have Cheryl give us a copy of this every week, so that when we get up there, we can go down over it. You know, we talked about the pole barn today, we talked about the hoop house.
Oh, that's the action list.
Right.
I thought that was the
No, that's.
non-public minutes stuff.
I was just seeing if
No.
there was anything on there that you need
The
before you
loam sales,
adjourn.
we didn't talk about with Willie, we should have.
I did contact the Ossipee Rotary Club to see if they would take over the wellness trail that starts out in back of this administration building.
Mhm.
They will be discussing it at their next meeting.
Okay,
In October, or have they already met?
They
this
meet
month?
every 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
so is it fair to check off the trail project partially, or
Contact has been made.
contact, okay?
So that, when I email minutes to the three of you, are all of you getting them and you're able to
Yes.
open them?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes,
Yep.
Because I did send this
that
last,
was on, that was
last
on.
week.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that everything's coming through.
Yep.
So,
Problem is, Melissa, I don't print them at home, so
yeah.
I look at them, so if Cheryl was
Yeah, I
putting
did
them in
too.
there, it would be,
Okay. So it's just that you want a hard copy printed here, so you're not having to
So-
print it out at home, but you're getting them there, so you
Yes.
can at least look at them ahead of time?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, just want to make sure that was working.
Okay, I'll move that we go into non-public.
excuse me, Dave.
Go ahead.
Before you start that,
So move.
if, I don't know what the numbers are on that sheet, but we want to include the number that has to do with talking about the compensation for,
I think that we already said RSAC. Didn't you say that? We already read the RSAC.
What do you want to talk, you want to talk about compensation?
yes. And I don't know whether that was the number you read or
No,
not.
it wasn't.
He said
Okay.
C, and actually
Okay.
could you add E to that also?
You add what? E.
E. So A, C, and E, we will go into non-public for,
Okay.
which is compensation, talk about litigation and, C.
Okay, we're going into non-public. I'll make a motion, we go into non-public under RSA 91A3, 2A, C, and E. Correct?
Correct.
Which means compensation, which means,
Second.
reputation of other members of the public body, or negotiating pending claims or
Litigation.
Yeah, she said litigation.
litigation. I make that a motion?
I'll second
Roll
it.
call, Commissioner Kenny, yes. Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes,
Commissioner Babson?
Yes.
we're in non-public.